Watch this.
Sine Die. Two words many have been waiting to hear for weeks. So what do lawmakers have to show for the session that was? Well, a boatload of bills, that's what. Stand by for what they have to say about them. Another focus of dysfunction is what's been happening in Caldwell lately. From parking meters to parking lots to the police chief, Caldwellers may be second-guessing their choice to lead the city. It's a Friday, and that means we go beyond the 208 to see what's going on with our next-door neighbors. And one Washington 7-year-old figured out a better use of his video game money.
The House is adjourned. Sine Die.
We are adjourned. Sine Die.
However you want to call it. On the 89th day, they rested. The first session of the 68th legislature ended their 12th week of business without a plan to come back anytime soon. At least they got it done under 90 days, about a month shy of the all-time record, not counting the 2 COVID years. So this year is the most prolific we've had in the last 5 when it comes to, well, bills and legislation. There were 789 pieces of legislation, if you include all the resolutions, the memorials, and the proclamations. As for just bills, there were 707 of those printed for consideration, with the vast majority coming from the House side, just 220 from the Senate. By end of day, more than 300 bills will have been sent to the governor this session, who has signed all but one so far, and that would be the most since the 2020 session. So tying up those loose ends today in the House and the Senate, working out the kinks of the revised medical freedom bill and approving the amendments on that and the DEI bill. In between dotting the I's and crossing the T's, the majority and minority parties took some time for a post-session press conference. The Grand Old Party going first with House Speaker Mike Moyle listing off all the things they accomplished this session, stuff they laid out on day 1 of the session. In order, that'd be tax relief, school choice, Medicaid reform, immigration enforcement, election integrity. Speaker Moyle made mention of keeping government growth down when it comes to budgets and the contentious budget process, while admitting the school funding formula is going to need some work over the summer. But school funding in general, well, that was addressed, Moyle said, with House Bill 304.
We are doing a lot, though, with the tax relief in regards to the facilities. You saw another $50 million stumped into the facilities this year. We're also doing a good job. We put out the $50 million for rural grants for those rural schools. That's a good thing. So we made a lot of movement on the other side on facilities, too.
Speaker Moyle mentioned the goal for the majority of school facility funding is to move it off property taxes and then back to the state where it should be. Well, then it was the Democrats' turn to take the podium, who pointed out that property tax bill, that relief he was just talking about, doesn't directly address the failing school facilities across Idaho. They also pointed out the fact none of those things the Republicans touted at the beginning of the session and at the end were top of the list of what Idahoans really wanted the legislature to address, according to the Boise State Public Policy Survey. Those would be education, jobs in the economy, and health care. And there was a lot of denying budgets to make room for tax cuts.
So while Democrats fought for child care, housing, food security, for vulnerable populations and a stable fiscal plan, the majority party was busy interfering with local business, local government, and personal choices. They've left our schools underfunded, our communities vulnerable, and they ignore you, their constituents, when you engage in democracy.
GOP saying the good thing, one of the good things, keeping a budget increase under 2%, while the Democrats and Senator Wintrow, you just heard from, pointed to the $87 million in cuts alone from education. We're going to dig more into the biggest bills of the session, a little bit of that next week. But for today, we're just going to remind you some of the biggest ones that kind of went through this week and kind of wrapped up the whole legislative session with this legislative wrap.
Hopefully, the last time we'll be greeting you in this committee on a Monday morning.
And Senator Jim Guthrie was right. Senate State Affairs took on House Bill 398 on the last Monday of the session. The bill increases lobbyist transparency by making spending reports year-round and addresses out-of-state group spending.
Because that's big money and big influence.
Don't worry, the proposal only covers paid lobbyists. Governor Little signed the bill into law this morning. A battle over medical freedom took place this week. Governor Brad Little vetoed the original Senate Bill 1023, but instead of overriding the veto, 2 more medical freedom bills popped up, House Bill 472 and Senate Bill 1210. Then on Thursday, the Senate actually did try to override the veto.
Less than 2/3 having concurred, the veto is sustained.
Unsuccessful, lawmakers put all their eggs in the Senate's new Medical Freedom Act bill. Senate Bill 1210 just changes language about daycares and schools and added a comma.
They say third time's the charm.
Third time was the charm. Senate Bill 1210 passed the House 44-23 with amendments, and the Senate approved those, so the bill is going to the governor's desk. And it's rumored he'll actually sign this one. The governor signed a lot of bills into law this week, including Senate Bill 1141. The new law bans camping and sleeping in public spaces in cities over 100,000 residents, like Boise, Meridian, and Nampa. The bill defines public camping as sitting or lying down for a prolonged amount of time or temporarily living in something like a tent or RV. Cities could face a fine up to $10,000 per violation if they don't enforce the law. This goes into effect on July 1st. Ivermectin might soon be available in Idaho without a prescription. Senate Bill 1211 went from committee to the governor's desk just this week. The bill allows the controversial drug to be sold without a consultation by a doctor and would go into effect immediately. The medicine, which is meant to treat parasites in humans and some animals, gained recognition during the pandemic, as some believed it could be used to prevent and treat the coronavirus. Although it was never approved by the FDA for that. We're still waiting to see if the governor will sign the bill into law. The Senate's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion bill is also waiting for the governor's signature. The bill prohibits higher education institutions from maintaining DEI offices, employees, or required courses. The House passed Senate Bill 1198 this morning with amendments, including increasing the penalty for violating the law from 2% to 10% of the institution's operating expenses. We'll just have to wait and see what the governor decides. And that's a legislative wrap.
Well, with the 2025 legislative session officially now in the books, we want to kind of take you back to a simpler time when sessions barely made it into spring. Back in 1998, it lasted just 71 days, and without debate. On most of those days, the most popular person on the Senate side was someone who could find bipartisan support, oddly, right around lunchtime. John Miller reintroduced us to Pearl Krebs, who was a firm believer in you can't lay down the law on an empty stomach in today's 208 Redial.
After a day of dishing it out in the Senate chambers, there isn't a senator who isn't happy to let Pearl Krebs dish it right back.
Come on in. We're serving spaghetti.
Cakes and veggies, garlic bread, fruit, and cottage cheese, and more garlic bread.
It's what a growing senator needs, huh?
That's exactly right, and I'm one of those growing senators. Right there you go.
They're easy to please. They like to eat.
Boy, the spots you're causing on senatorial ties today.
Isn't that the truth?
And there are lots of senatorial ties to spot.
Everything under control?
I hope so. They're busy today.
Pearl does a great job, I'll tell you.
She takes real good care of us.
In fact, I noticed every senator who came in said the same thing.
Oh my land, the press is here.
And then they said how they're glad to have old Pearl back after she missed half of last session's lunches for medical reasons.
We're real glad to have her back.
And look at Senator Perry. He's a clean plate commando today, huh?
You bet. Just as soon as I finish my soup, I lick everything up because Pearl scolds us if we don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, Pearl, Ibsen says he's doing the dishes over here.
Oh, that's good. When we have the paper plates, I'm sure. Thank you, ma'am.
You see, here it's good to know, even when the offerings get a little bland on the Senate floor, Pearl's always got something tasty cooking in the Senate kitchen.
We spice it up good, right.
No more Senate side kitchen anymore. There is a eating area that everybody enjoys on the garden level of the State House after the remodel done about, 15 years ago now. All right, well, over the last year, we've done several stories about residents in Caldwell unhappy with the city officials. There was the now inactive parking meters that cost the city nearly $200,000 after businesses said those meters were affecting sales and there were questions about how they were approved in the first place. Most recently, a hotel development across from the Canyon County Fairgrounds, that was approved until, residents there found out that that's what was going to be built and taking up their parking spot that they usually use for events at the fairgrounds. There's also a recall effort now in final stages of signature collection in order to be placed on the November 2025 ballot. The campaign wants to recall the mayor and 4 of the 6 city council members. Aspen Shumpert stopped by as campaign organizers were out there collecting signatures today.
I hope that we can get rid of the people that don't respect the voters of Caldwell.
Longtime Caldwell resident Jim Hollis
Hi.
is collecting signatures.
Sign right on.
In an effort that could reshape city leadership.
They never listen. If you just watch when people are giving comments, I mean, one's doodling with his watch, looking at his phone. They never ask a question to show any desire to hear what people are wanting.
Organizers are working to recall Mayor Jaron Wagner and 4 of the current Caldwell council members.
All 5 of them, they no longer represent the people of Caldwell. You sit in a council meeting and it's kind of embarrassing how they berate people.
The recall effort gained momentum following several controversial decisions, including approval of a hotel on community land that many residents opposed.
The current people in charge of our government are doing what they want to do, and I don't know what that's about, but I disagree with what's going on.
The campaign will need 4,984 signatures for each elected official in order for the recalls to be on the ballot.
It's the only way to gain attention. It's the only way to solve the problem. It's the only way to show future politicians that those of us that are lifelong residents here used to have pride in Caldwell. If my house wasn't paid for, I'd be out of here.
Councilmember Mike Dittenber is one of the 5 facing recall.
I am aware that there are recall efforts happening right now, and I embrace those efforts. A lot of people say that they're not being heard, and I can assure you they are being heard.
He feels the heart of the controversy is growth.
So how do you balance that with other people's desire to have a small community? With regard to the hotel, we took a look at a lot of different information, all the stakeholders in the area, in addition to the revenues that it would bring in, and the whole plan for that area. And in the end, it was a good choice for the city. I stand behind that decision. And as we know now, it seems to be a major focal point in this recall effort.
Dittenber defends his vote in favor of the hotel as being guided by legal requirements rather than personal preferences.
One of the things that people don't realize is that City Council and the mayor isn't in the business of developing subdivisions and isn't in the business of bringing in business per se. We are just the people who sit back and referee that. We create code, and then we also stand from time to time as a body of people who determine whether or not projects and development are eligible under the law.
He says he's eager to see the outcome, but hopeful to stay in his role.
My intent right now is to pour my heart and soul into Caldwell and to do what I was elected to do.
We did reach out to all 5 elected officials that are included in these recall efforts. You saw Councilmember Dittenber was the only one that granted us an on-camera request. The mayor did send us a statement in that he said he is aware of the recall efforts and wants the public to know he takes his role seriously and will continue to lead with integrity. He says his prosperity has always been the well-being and prosperity of our community, his focus that was. Councilmember Doty also provided us a statement. He wanted the public to know that the county clerk does not verify the claims made in petitions, and just because an individual or group is making accusations, it doesn't mean they are true. Doty says he trusts the process and is grateful every day to serve on the council. Now, Brian, I told you about this petition needs nearly 5,000 signatures for each of these officials.
And what's that based on?
That is based on being 20% of registered voters of the last city election. So that was back in 2023. And I'm going to talk more about this coming up on the news at 6. We did sit down with Canyon County Clerk, and he explains this to us. He did say that number that is needed for this recall is actually more than the number of votes that were cast in the last election. So hypothetically, in order for this recall to get on the ballot, they are going to need more signatures than they had votes that people that casted their votes back in 2023.
Which is crazy. It's a big number to reach.
It is a big number to reach.
And if they do get there, that kind of gives you an idea of which way that might be leaning then.
It does.
All right. Thank you very much, Aspen. might say a Eugene, Oregon woman is a bit more connected to her family than, well, maybe most. She's now received not one, but 2 life-saving kidney donations. First from her brother, and now from her nephew. Susan received her first kidney from her brother back in 1991, and now her second from her nephew just a few weeks ago. And 30 years later, between the 2 operations, she says the surgery is so much different. Libby Dowsett from our sister station in Portland tells us more.
Susan Posner stands with the team that saved her life. Her kidney surgeons, her brother Ian, her first kidney donor, and her nephew David, her most recent donor.
You don't know how sick you are until you actually receive another kidney. Within a day, I mean, you're feeling like you feel wonderful.
David is feeling good too. Both he and Aunt Susan are still in recovery.
Arduous at times, just because you're kind of housebound, locked in the house a little bit, can't go anywhere, can't drive. You know, it's difficult. We've got 2 young boys in the house that go in a rough house.
When Susan received her first transplant from her brother Ian in 1991, kidney transplants were more invasive for the recipient and the donor. But her brother Ian didn't hesitate to travel from Scotland for the surgery.
It's almost like your duty to step up, because it's family, that's what it is. And just watching David coming through, stepping up, yeah, I honour him as a man, and I really respect what he's done. And I just can't put any words just how proud of him that I am.
For David, the surgery was just as serious, but with surgeons now using high-tech robotics, they can decrease the size of the incision and improve recovery time.
The robot gives us amazing visualization, really steady operating tools, very dynamic movements and fine motor skills that aren't really available with some of the traditional laparoscopic techniques. So that has been an even more amazing thing that we can offer to patients now.
Susan says even with the technological advancements, she realizes the sacrifices her family has made.
There's definitely some guilt, and I told David every day, you know, anytime you want to back out of this, you know, absolutely, there's no question.
There was no second thought. It was just, yep, let's do it. If I'm not a blood match, then we'll find the next person.
And these guys stepped up.
I don't know what you say to someone who has given up a kidney, and to save my life, you have to question the value of your life, and have someone so willing to do that. It's pretty incredible. It's just incredible. And I feel so grateful, and it's extraordinary.
He might be the youngest person ever to donate to the Humane Society of Tacoma in Pierce County in Washington. 7-year-old Sawyer Foss was saving up money to buy a Nintendo Switch until, well, he decided to switch and then use those savings to save a dog at the shelter. Madison Wade, our sister station in Seattle, has his story.
7-year-old Sawyer, meet
Sawyer,
a shelter dog that shares the same name.
He's soft and gentle, and I really like him a lot.
Sawyer the human finally got to meet Sawyer the dog this week, and the two have a special bond.
Got it.
When Sawyer the human turned 7, he donated his birthday money to the shelter.
He's a dog lover, and he really loves dogs and has a big heart for animals.
The Humane Society of Tacoma and Pierce County wrote Sawyer a letter to say thank you.
He was holding the letter and he said, I could either save a dog or, you know, buy a Nintendo Switch too.
So Sawyer wrote back and donated again.
Dear Humane Society, I was moved by your letter. I decided to donate $80 to save a dog instead of getting the Nintendo 2 Switch, Sawyer.
And Sawyer's letter went viral online.
Look how many people liked that. Do you know what that is?
Wait, 10 million?
10,000.
Oh gosh. It makes me feel like generous and kind.
Yeah.
And I like helping others. That includes animals.
This was a good thing for us to do for once, to not receive toys and all the material things and to put it towards something else that could help.
Sawyer's donation will take care of the adoption fees for Sawyer the dog.
I hope he gets adopted.
A heartwarming story that we can all learn from.
It feels good to help others.
In Tacoma, Madison Wade.
You don't regret your decision?
I don't regret it.
King 5 News.
Well, we made it through a week of showers on and off to a great weekend lined up for us, but that weekend came a little bit earlier because, as you can see outside right now, we already have blue, clear skies and the sun is shining. 50s in the valleys and even 40s in the mountains right now. Looking at the next 12 hours in the Treasure Valley, we're going to be very clear, and that's going to last through the next 48 hours this weekend. But tonight, you still have time to get outside and enjoy the weather. You don't even probably need a jacket outside in the Treasure Valley right now. Sun will go down at 8:15 p.m. We're looking dry and clear for the night, waking up to a low of 33 degrees tomorrow morning, but then we will warm up to 62 degrees, which is about 3 degrees above average. Then Sunday, we're going to be even warmer and drier with a high of 70 degrees, but then we will have showers coming through late Sunday into Monday and Tuesday. Those showers are looking light, but they will be widespread, so get outside while you can this weekend because those showers will return quickly.
All right, we got some technical issues with the big board here, so I'm going to read some of these messages off the phone as they came in today. This one starting from Sylvia, who asks, who are the stakeholders involved in the controversial hotel in Caldwell? That'd be AJA Ventures. I think they're out of North Carolina. I think they're kind of combining with another investment firm to kind of build this hotel. Somebody else wanted to know, well, isn't this private property that they're complaining about, or the protesters? And yeah, it is, but people are really fans of change. You know how that goes. Legislators telling citizens the 2025 session was successful does not mean it was beneficial to the citizens, says Mike. That's perspective. I didn't see the legislature really address or make any laws to help Idaho citizens again this year, says Bob. And, well, how about the coat looking like Pinto car seats? I don't know. Maybe a couch in the basement? I don't know.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.